Okay, we're back here. So it's been a little bit of while since we've done dev videos here. Most of it's been Let's Plays and other things, and it's not that it's not that I haven't been doing any development work, as I actually have been doing some tweaks, fixes, doing some textures, mostly been working on client commissions, which is unfortunately what we're going to be doing this episode, is working on some client stuff. But it shouldn't take too long. So as soon as we're done with this, we're actually going to jump into working on some single block mods. I know you guys mainly come here to see ICBM and a few other things, but we'll get to it eventually. We just gotta creep back into it every week because it's not easy to go from doing no real major work to doing major work right away. So the plan is right now to do more commission work. After all, I gotta get this stuff out of the way, just like I gotta get my schoolwork out of the way before we do anything major. Right now, nothing to really do today, so that's the reason why we're doing the commission work. After all, I just finished doing these for the client. It took me a bit of time to texture these. Now, these are all textured up by hand. These are not like copy-paste changes of each other. You can actually see there are differences between all the textures. They look very similar because, after all, I did try to keep the stylization consistent. I did use the same techniques to make each of the textures. Now, these, of course, are roof tiles, wall tiles, and floor tiles. They're not the best-looking textures I've ever made. Although I kind of still really like these guys. I'm going to have to make some textures with this stylization later, because I do enjoy it. It actually does look nice. If you build up like a wall with these or something, this looks interesting. I mean, it's not like beautiful, but it's not ugly either. And you definitely could see like the possibilities of building something with this style of texture. I may throw something very similar to this in military base decor, because this is that's kind of what it reminds me of. It reminds me of like bunkers that have those stripes on the walls and stuff. Like where you would see like a stripe going down saying you're on like level 3. Although I think it's only video games that actually do that. Real life, I don't know what they look like. I've never been into a real bunker before. I wouldn't mind going to one, but I'm absolutely broke and can't afford to travel. So yeah. But anyways, we're going to work on these. Now, the main feedback I did get from this is that they're a little too strong, which we knew was going to happen. I threw it out to the client thinking, like, he would comprehend that these need more work. Of course, we still have to fix the RPGs. That's something we'll get into. But as soon as we're done with this, the plan is to work on baggable entities. So you know how we got the baggable plant mod? You can bag up plants. We're going to make one where you can bag up entities. Kind of a replacement for the Safari map. Yeah, as you can see, these don't break quickly. These don't break at all. So these are a little too strong HP-wise. And from what I'm told is the client doesn't really care that these are any tougher than each other. So what I thought was originally going to be the case is that the client would want the walls to be slightly weaker than the floor, and then the roof to be weaker. But it sounds like what he actually wants it to happen is that certain tiles are not necessarily weaker, but they're kind of required to make things function. So the first thing we want to do is, of course, bring down the default stats, which means we're going to actually have to go wipe out some run configs here. So we need to go to Volts Engine, go to runs, not data there. That's for the JUnit tests. Go to Wujujo and just delete the whole config folder. So reset those, and then we're going to go in, and what he wants is, if we can pull up, I'm going to pull up the chat on a separate window just so I can reiterate this. I'm not going to show you guys the chat because, well, confidentiality and stuff. So what he wants is the wood to take 1 RPG hit, the stone to take 5 RPG hits, and the iron to take 12 RPG hits. So we're going to have to do some reverse engineering and stuff. And I have a feeling I'm just going to want to go ahead and code a custom explosion for the client. And I've been thinking about doing this already because I have this feeling that even after I get all this done, he's going to find that the way the explosion is currently set up is not gameplay nice, is a good way to put it. Which I do admit, the TNT explosions we do have are just, they're not working out well. They pathfind a little too strong, and they don't feel consistent. Which I've known for a while, and we've talked about this a few times in the dev videos, that I do need to spend a huge amount of time rewriting the ICBM explosions, because when I made them, I was really focused on just making something that worked really well and accomplished this goal. And of course, when you use them against vanilla materials, you don't see the problem right away. It works, it does its job. It's when you start using things that are non-vanilla, when they're stronger, they take up more of a hit, is when you start to immediately notice that there's a problem. And of course, we're using this stuff. So let's actually get some code open here. So we got Wajujo, and then we want the walls. So we've already got some materials programmed in here, and of course this was a bit high. So what I'm thinking is we're going to actually change this to 0.8, and of course we're going to make it store float. So we're going to say the floor is 1.2F, and of course we're going to say the wall is 1. This will make the HP a little bit more consistent, and then we want so much HP. Now what he was thinking, HP wise, is that a ceiling tile has 10 HP, a wall 15, and a floor 10. So he wants these to be HP driven, and then he wants these guys to be resistance driven. So that's not how the code is set up right now, which is problematic. I think we can reverse engineer this. So if in effect, it's not so much he wants the HP to be this way. He wants it to relatively be the HP this way. So that's what we're going to focus on, is relative HP. So one RPG shot, I think we've done the math, it's like 500. And that means we're at 10. So yeah, this should take one RPG hit and die. Then we want this to be 25. Then we want whatever this to be 62, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and test that, and of course we have the slight difference between these. If he does actually want this to be the same, does he really want the walls to have more HP? I gotta scroll down here. Yeah, he actually wants the walls to have more HP than the ceiling and the floor. That doesn't make much sense, because then he told me he wants if the floor doesn't exist, you can't place wall tiles, which then makes me believe that if okay, so he's got a lot of notes here. I have to read through it more, but we're gonna go ahead and just test this real quick. We'll get the actual destructive part balanced out, and then I'll leave it up to him to start picking everything else. And what I'll do is I'll come through, and this energy value up here, so this is what is driving the damage per HP. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this per material after this. So we'll bring this down here, we'll store the enum, and then we'll load it up via the config. And then we'll also make the HP values set up that way. Which right now the HP values are per material, and they were set up in such a way that they're slightly different from each other. We'll work on this more, and then we'll figure something out, because there's a bit of everything to do. And what may end up happening is I may get rid of this multiplier out of here, and I may just manually set the HP values myself instead of having them autonomously generate. But that's, I mean, it's a good start. And then once we get this done for this client, the only thing left to do for the client is implement some we're probably going to do the grenade and EMP gun next. Those two will be enjoyable to actually build with, because the grenade is actually going to be part of the armory mod, and so will the EMP gun technically. At least the code to make them function will be, but the content itself will be in here. So just like we have one here where we have a content for handgun, you'll see a content for EMP gun. So it'll be like EMP gun, here's your model, here's what you look like. And then on trigger pull, rather than firing a projectile, it'll trigger an event that will ray trace, and then on impact of where you're pointing at, it'll then do like a 5-block EMP or something. It'll be configurable. I'll let the client do whatever he wants. Okay. There we go. That blew up in 1 block. Now this guy should take 5. Really need to fix the rotation of this rocket launcher. How many have we fired so far? I think we're at 4. I have not been counting. It would be really important if I was. I think we did 5 there, so we're going to actually try this again. Okay. I apologize because this is like a lot of loud noises and stuff.
User joined the channel.
There's 1. I blew up in 1. Why did it blow up in 1? Okay. Ah, it's not working properly. There's one thing, it's like when you want it to work just right, and it's doing everything but working right. Why is everything catching on fire? Strange things we have. I think the HP didn't read incorrectly, so let's go ahead and open up the configs in here and take a look. So we're shooting at stone, and stone has 25 HP, and that means it takes 250 energy. That's why it's blowing up a one hit. Okay. Yeah, we need to recode the explosion. It's as simple as it gets. So what I need to do is I just need to tell the explosion to AoE, and then it will just pass through like every block in a radius, and then just kill everything. And then, well, it'll just do HP damage. Maybe, I don't know. So we're doing. Let's put a break line here. Now let's see how much energy we're doing at point of contact. See, we're passing in 565 energy. So that's how much one RPG is. Alright, that's massive. I need to really work on this more. So we want... That's one RPG. Huh. And then we want... So that means we need like... We need a mathematical formula that's better going to handle this. We also need this to be different. This is where I think I'm just going to have to reprogram this whole system. Because we're using this energy tile system, which is cool. It's really flexible. It means that somebody can build up their own system to do all the kinds of stuff they want to do. They can build all kinds of cool little functionality. It means that when we go to work on MFFS, we don't need to even do anything with MFFS. What we need to do is just make the force field a version of this, and then the force field will take energy hits after energy hit after energy hit, and it will translate really, really well. The problem is when you're trying to correlate HP out of something that's generating a lot of energy. So we need... I'm going to say if we change this to 100, then that would correlate out to about 5.6 HP damage, which then would roughly give us 5 here, and would roughly give us 1 here. Because then it'll be 5.6, and then if you times 5.6 times, let's say actually 5.6 times 4, I think is what's going to, no? Yeah, so it'd be, if you do 5.6 times 5, you get 28, which is more than this. That'll look like it's 5. And if you do 5.6 times 12, then that's 67, so it would look correct, even though it's not fully correct. It would also give a little bit of splash damage. Splash damage is actually the thing I'm talking about that's not quite working correctly, is that the block on impact is absorbing 100% of the energy, which is not how an explosion works, which is the reason I need to recode everything. So anytime we do an energy-based explosion for ICBM, it needs to splash damage a lot more, which is something it's not doing. It's why I was talking about it. The energy distribution is not correct. And it just looks that way because of how the system's set up. So we switched this to 100. And this is actually, I kind of am tempted to go ahead and maybe do a few other things. You know, I need to fix this RPG. I know exactly how to fix it too. Let's pop down to the content down here. It would be guns, RPG render. Should be render. Oh, it's rendered, not RPG. Okay. We have 2 renders in here. Let me actually make a new file for this. Not a singleton number file. RPG, or this would be render.entity.json. So once again, I reiterate, you don't actually have to make individual files for things. It just really helps organize. So you do like that, and of course I forgot to encapsulate it in the standard brackets. JSON formatting is weird. Then we're going to need the bullet. So there's an RPG model, RPG round model. I think it actually belongs to this one. The models don't have to be the same file as well. This is entirely optional. It's just the more you organize, the easier it is to work with something. And I need the texture. So there's an empty. So here's a bullet. Here's an empty bullet, which you're never going to have, I don't think. Oh no, wait, this is the actual rocket launcher empty. So this is for the item. This is for the bullet. This is, I believe, the actual RPG. Here's the texture for the RPG. And here's the model for the RPG. I think these guys share this texture right here. But it's not a problem. I'm just going to do this real quick, because this way at least I know what's going on, and then I can do something like this, comment. And then you do something like that, and then it won't read the comment, of course. It'll ignore it, but and this is another example where JSON doesn't have a comment system, but in order to get around that, you can just do something like that. This way I know where the texture is if I ever come back down here. So I know it's in this file system. But then we got this guy, and then what's happening with him is the render state is not set up correctly, and all we have to do is go pop up the ICBM real quick, go down to its content, go down to its missiles, go pop and find micro, and then we want to grab this guy. And then we might have to mess with rotations too while we're at it. But we want to change the rotation order, is what we want to do. So we don't want to mess with the inventory, which, by the way, apparently RPG bullet belongs to this as well. So I'm going to grab this and throw it in the other package. Because this is for the actual item, so here's a texture. Okay, yeah, so that should work, because what we just need to do is change the render order, because after all we were having problems with render order, and I went ahead and I set up a system so you can manually pick it. And for entities, yaw needs to be applied before pitch. But for items, for whatever reason, an item likes to have a different order, and I just still have not figured that out, and nobody can give me a good answer for it. But we can go ahead and hit play on this, and we are going to have to restart. So go ahead and close that. So we need to restart A to get the renders to update, because the renders do not update in real time. They have to be recompiled and reloaded. And although there's nothing in the compiling process, it's more of just they copy file from one folder to the next. So if I can actually show this. When everything's built, it will throw in things like the build folder. It will throw things in the output folder. And then it will even do stuff in the run folder and stuff. So there's where we make the content. So we actually, when we build this stuff up, everything is in the source folder, is where we're developing in. But when we build things, it goes in the output, and it goes in the build, it goes in the production. There's a few other different folders. There's like a temp folder where stuff goes into. I mean, you can see all the folders in here. There's so much junk that's in here, just to get us where we need to be. And then everything loads up. That's the reason why I have to always reload when you're writing these things. Eventually, I kind of want to get away from that, and I do have ideals of how to handle it. It's just, there is going to have to be a lot of work to get to that point, and I haven't set aside enough time to start on it. Especially since I really want to begin on the 1.8 update sometime this week. So starting like the 23rd, or I may wait till after finals though, because I literally only have like 3 weeks left, I believe. So this is my last week of class. So after that, the plan is this week to get one of my teeth worked on, by the way, and then maybe start on the update at the same time, and then get ICBM updated inside this month to 1.8, 1.9. Because as soon as I get past that 1.9 gap, or get past the 1.8 update, 1.9, 1.10, 1.11, and 1.12 are going to be real easy. And for those who keep saying just go straight to 1.12, I have been considering it, but it still doesn't change the fact that I have to get past that 1.8 gap. The 1.8 gap, no matter if you shoot to 1.12 or not, that code is still there. and you still have to update for that code. So even if you update to 112, you're still using 1.8 code to do it. So I'm going to update to 1.8 first, even if I don't release a version, because what I'm thinking about doing is just updating to 1.8, to 1.9, 1.10, 11, and only releasing for 12, while I work on trying to figure out how to make the abstraction system function properly. Anyways, let's go ahead and test this. Get our weapon reloaded. Hopefully the render fixes too, and I can do like a double down. Nah, that did not fix. Now let's test the render real quick. Works in that direction. Does not work in that direction. It's off by like off by 90 degrees it looks like, but it's off in both directions. It could just be the entity render for this could be messed up. Because you see that? You see how it's even the pitch is wrong? Oh no, the pitch is right. It's just the yaw. Just the yaw itself is messed up. Because what direction are we facing? We actually are facing 0. So the model itself is rotated. Because it flies perfectly straight when you're on the 0 line, which tells me the model is indeed rotated. Because then if we update pitch here, well, the pitch is a little bit exaggerated, but it still works. Yeah, the pitch is exaggerated. There's something wrong with this. So what to fix? Oh, it doesn't explode when you hit water. I probably should make it explode when it hits water. So it's off 90 degrees in that way, and we're facing... So it needs to be plus 90 in that direction. And it's off by 90. It just needs to have a negative sign in front of it. And this is something I might be able to just fix right here and without reloading. So we go in the armory, content, entities, entity, render projectile. We just need a negative right here. Oh, that didn't help at all. So it works there. Doesn't want to work that way. It's pointing in the wrong direction. Okay, now we're getting this really fun bug. There's this really cool bug I had the other day where no matter what you did, the yaw wanted to point in the same direction every single time. I know what's wrong with this. This whole section of code needs to be rewrote. We can fix this. What I need to do is I need to go to ICBM, and I just need to go find ICBM's render code. Because after all, ICBM's render code works perfectly, because we can go and we can pull out, say, a micro missile, like a radiation one real quick, and we can pull out a rocket launcher from it. Set the time of day while I write it too. Or it's not game mode, it's game rule. Do day-night cycle false. There we go, we don't have to worry about it changing. So like if we fire this guy works perfectly, because I actually spent some time working on him and all his code is really nice. I need to just spend more time on this guy, because these are two different code sets, by the way, for these guys. This is really primitive. This one is a little bit more advanced, and unfortunately the complexity with the advanced code also makes it malfunction in certain ways. In this example, we're using the same exact code that makes the handguns work. So if they get a handgun, this is the same code as this guy, even though they look completely, utterly different. That's one of the reasons why this works a little nicer, because the simpler your code is, usually the less likely it breaks. The more complicated, you get problems. But with the rendering, though, and what I'm really talking about with problems is that the aim isn't quite right on this guy. It's a little messed up. But the rendering is what's actually breaking it. So we go over here, we go to missile, entity missile, and there should be a render for this actually. It's actually client render missile. And here's the code for this, by the way. Really, really, really basic. So we got some interpolation code going on here, which actually does make it run a little better. We need to get the interpolation code over here, which means we are going to have to reboot. So I'm just going to go ahead and kill this. No point in leaving something up. Yeah, so what we really, really want to do is just mimic this entire thing. We don't need the height, by the way. This is something that can be ignored. But we do need all of this. Yeah, so we're gonna rewrite this from scratch. Sorta. I'm gonna just comment this out. And the reason I'm gonna comment this out is I need a few pieces from it still, so don't want to get rid of the whole thing. But we get this. Of course, we got to get rid of a few different things. We got to rename a few different things. So I'm gonna go ahead and rename that to X, Y, Z, and then we're gonna get rid of this height addition because we don't need it. Then we need the interpolation method here, which is just a really basic method that makes the code run a little better. It fixes some rotation issues, and wow, Google timing. The sad thing is all those notifications have already shown up on my phone, and I've already watched like half of these videos too. I've been watching a lot of Sid Alpha's videos. He does a pretty good job. He makes some mistakes occasionally. He recently released a video where he's like, I kind of misinterpreted what they were saying, and he like apologized. At least he's good about apologizing for things. I give him credit. He's a pretty cool guy. So we want a method very similar to the render method here. That way we can kind of break our code apart. It's the same reason I did it over here, is that it makes the code a little smoother if you can just break it into sections. So you don't have to do all this junk, and you don't have to worry about what's going on and what's being used where. Okay, so we sort of want the render keys. Except we don't really need them, so we don't need the render keys. We do need the content ID. So we're going to do something like string content ID. And you just put the content ID out here. And then we don't need this part. We are going to need a backup render, but we don't need it right there, so we're going to get rid of that right at the moment. We do need render keys. The render keys are going to be static, so we're going to put them up here. So it'll be public static final string render keys. And right now we're just going to do like new string, and we're going to put in 2 render keys. So we want the first one to be projectile. If that doesn't work, then we want to use entity. So we always want to prioritize the projectile for the render key because that's what we're rendering. We're rendering a projectile. But if they say they didn't put the projectile in there, but they did have an entity render, we could attempt to use their entity render in case of failure. And of course, this is the backup that I wanted. So why I was saying I need to copy some code from places is if it doesn't render, I want to have a backup. And I just want to render like a grayscale texture. Actually, no, we're going to just do this. Boolean. And then we're just going to do if. Yeah, we're just going to return right here. Return. Actually, and we would go if rendered, return true. And this way I can also then just put Boolean rendered down here. And actually, I don't even need that. I can just take this whole thing right here, put this here, do this. Get rid of this up here, return false, and then we take this guy and we want to pop it up here, and then we want to go and use our render key method here. So we go, okay, if you didn't render, and we need the content ID of course, so we got a few extra things to put in here. Content ID is something else I need to get, so we need to go if instance of entity projectile. And then actually, I'm gonna reverse a couple things here. So we still want our is render thing. Actually, we want that. So we're gonna go okay, Boolean rendered equals. Well, actually, we don't want it there. We want to put it here, make it false, then rendered. Because what we need to do here is we need to put this nonsense here, because we can only render the entity if we know what it is. So in this case, we go, okay, if you are a projectile, let's render you. But then we need your key, which is this piece of junk here, which is why I wanted to do that and set up this a little differently. Is then we go, okay, if you're a projectile and you have ammo data, and let's say even you have a unique ID set up correctly, although you should never really, actually, I'm not going to ignore that. The unique ID should never be set up wrong. So if we got all that, then we go, okay, if you render, then we don't need to run this part. But if, say, for example, something passes in here that's not a projectile, we can still run the backup render. But say, for example, the ammo data turned null because of a client error, we still have a backup render, so you can still see the projectile. Everything else looks good. I don't see any problems, so I'm going to go ahead and junk this code now. And then I'm just going to fix my syntax errors here. Reload the code, and we're going to rename this to render. Actually, we're going to rename it to render projectile. Render project. Oh, come on, you stupid system. Sometimes when you're not paying attention and you hit refactor, IntelliJ will try to refactor like curly brackets and stuff, and it's like you don't really need to do that. And how do I exclude, do refactor? Okay, that just failed. I thought for a second it was trying to refactor this up here, but I probably should read a little bit more before I click yes. So we got our keys up here, those look good. Let's go back to here and make sure we got the correct thing, so it's projectile. So just go projectile, that looks good. Render, so yeah, we're good. So everything is nice. And we can even do more with this, like we can say, okay, entity projectile or something, but I think projectile is straightforward, then we got entity, render everything. So this should, in theory, function. It's the same exact render code as the missiles run, so if we get any render problems now, it's because the model itself is not set up. Let's actually go hunt down the model real quick and take a look at it while it loads up. So if you go to source, main, resources, assets, Wojujo, models, and we should have an RPG rocket model. Ignore. So one of the things that might be causing us problems is this is on its side. It may look like it's up and down on here, but Windows is different on its load order. And the way I can show this is if we pop all the way back out, go to ICBM, source, main, resources, assets, ICBM models. And then we go missile, and we open up the micro. See the micro, how it's on its side in this picture? Pointing towards that 50 number. This is on its top. So that means there's a 90-degree difference on here. And potentially, I don't know what else is wrong with this. So I want to say that's the same. So this just needs to be tilted 90 degrees downward. I think also with these are like 100 degrees back, 180 degrees backwards on top of being 90 degrees needed to be tilted down. We make our ICBM missiles this way because they load in the launchers a lot nicer than they do entity-wise. But for the entities, we really probably should have probably worked on a little bit more. But for the RPG, it works. And I get, interestingly, we may not have any problems with it because if they don't need to be 90 degree tilted, then I don't need a 180 them either, which is really nice. So there's no real work that has to be done with them. So these should fly straight then. That's the theory. Okay, that's a 0 direction, I believe, but it doesn't tilt at all. Aha! Look at that. It's working now. So now, one of the main reasons it actually is probably working as well is that it's now using its own internal render system because we're not applying, we're not applying any rotation at all, even though we are getting the rotation here. We're passing the rotation directly into this guy. So we're not touching this at all. And this guy isn't touching either. He's calling render with this, which means then the internal is running its own rotation code. So it's now rendering a lot better, although I am getting a really weird pitch issue. Yeah, this is an example of why you can't have nice things. So now we have a pitch problem. So I'm not sure how to fix this. Because we copied this code perfectly, but now our pitch is inverted. We're going to have to add more code to the engine here later, because I can't fix that in here, because if I fix it in here, then the next projectile we get that has a problem would also not render correctly. And this is a great example of where this code is designed for this guy, but it's not designed for this guy, even though this code runs really, really well. So we're not running any negatives on here. So this is definitely a problem with this internal code here. How is the best way to fix it though? What I think might be a good way to do this is to do something just like that and go, okay, if we're prefixed with a negative number, invert our pitch value, which would be an easy fix. Because not only does this define your rotation order, it also defines your rotation style, like or addition. We can fix this real quick. It is something doable. So all I need to do is I need to go to the engine. This is one of the bigger problems also doing this. I need to really optimize the code, because somebody's going to notice this eventually, that even though I'm running at 60 frames per second, if I can spam enough of these in the air, you will actually start to see an FPS hit. And this is not just because we're rendering complex models, but it's because we're doing a lot of things when we're doing rendering that we shouldn't be doing. This is a string comparison. You don't want to do string comparisons in render code. It's actually really slow. But we'll fix that later. What I'll transition it to is like a binary system that would run a lot faster. It would be like noticeably faster. It would go from milliseconds to nanoseconds faster. But client, this should be JSON, effects, no, render state, I think it's the model state. Yeah, here we go. So what we want to do is just do another string comparison, and this is where I was talking about you don't want to do string comparisons, so we want to convert this system up here to like a binary system eventually. Go, okay, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, because integer comparisons are really fast. And it's something we want to do eventually, and I'll just put a mark down here, to convert string to int for faster compare. And there actually are, I've seen people do this before with also comparison things. They'll just flat out turn the string into an integer for comparison, because it is faster, it really is. But what do we want to do here? So we want to just do this really. Just add an extra entry that if it starts with that, it's a negative. It's a little extra work. Actually, you know what? Let's copy the whole thing here. Put it here, and then just go negative, 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 and that will do the trick. And we should see a fix. Now, of course, I'm going to have to restart it in order to get that fixed, but I'm not going to do that right now because good enough. It's not something we need to spend a huge amount of time. The goal is to, of course, test this guy. So, one, I need to reset this, actually. So, he should take 5 hits. So, there's 1, 2, 3. This is quite loud, too. It's vanilla audio. 4. It took 5. Let's see if 6 breaks it. 6 didn't break it. There's 7. I may be bad at math. Yeah, we broke something. Definitely broke something. Okay. So we set this to 100. Which should have got us 5.6. That's what it should have got. Okay. So we're passing in. Oh, what is with this energy? Oh, we're splash damaging it. We're not hitting it directly. Okay, let me try shooting it directly this time. Okay, 1, let's try shooting it directly with debug code on. Okay. No, we're taking 70 energy. What changed? It's like 70 energy is being passed in instead of that 500 and something. I need to recode this. That is just as simple as it gets. So much for getting to single blocks mods today. We're 40 minutes in already, and I've already discovered a flaw in the code. Because what this ends up to is you see it cost me 1,000 something energy because we set the energy so high. Because if we look at our HP value, we have 16 HP, which, yeah, that's right, you times it by 100. Why did our energy turn to 70, though? There's some math wrong with the explosion code is what I think is wrong. I'm about to switch to like some of Cal Clubby's older code because I kind of like how it runs, and it does run a little better. And might be a good solution. You know what? We're just going to code a custom for this. Okay, so save and quit because we're not getting anywhere with this anytime soon. This whole energy code is worthless now. And what we simply want to do... Man, we have a concurrent modification problem here. I just noticed that too. This is not protected from a concurrent modification. Although the good thing is there's no checks for concurrent modification on a float, so if we get two things modifying the value at the same time, it doesn't really do any damage. It just means one it takes effect, the other one doesn't. I mean, it's an easy solution for all of this. So he just wants the explosions to do damage to only his damageable tiles. So the way we do this is we're going to code flat out custom explosions for him. So we just need to go content, new, make a package, and make sure we do it in the correct folder. Actually, we want that package, and we'll call EX. And then we want to make explosion, or EX damage, implements I blast. Do we have a prefab for this? Extends abstract blast. I'm pretty sure I have a prefab for this. Extends blast. Here we go. So blast should give us all the like default code here, and there shouldn't be like any actual destruction code in here. It should all be just all the basics. Get affected blocks, which calls get affected blocks, which is exactly what do. Okay, so we do this, and then we just, I need to jump all this metal code. And then that way we put back constructor, which we need. You only need that constructor. And then we need to implement get affected blocks. And then what else does this need? Safe delete. Why safe delete? What's going on? Have the same yet override other. What? That's what's going on. It's just, it's being dumb. Okay, so we get our affected blocks, and then we just, really we want to pathfind. Really simplistic pathfinder. And we just want to go, okay, every block that I can touch within a certain radius, just destroy. And actually, you know what we should do is we should path blast, or we should extend blast symbol. Implement methods, change block location, and then this way we can ignore that whole thing right there. And then instead of calling get affected blocks, we can actually just piggyback the recursion code here. And we get affected blocks already. Then what we should do is not only do we change the block here, which we didn't really care about in the first place, actually we just want to return leave blocks.error. I don't remember if blast simple has handling for energy calculations. And that might be the problem. I need to find the can path method real quick. So there should be a method here like should path and should path too. So we got the should path. So this one you get the basic distance check, and then we also want to do. So we go super dot should path location, and then we would go okay and what? So we only want to path. Really only want to path if we break a block. It's a little hard to do that though. The cool thing is the simple pather runs a lot nicer, a little bit smoother. Yeah, so we want to know what block we changed. I think what we want to do is if we know we changed the block, does it pass in the edit from last one? No, it just passes in last and next. So we get current node. I mean, what we could do is we can pop the list real quick and then check to see if the two are the same, but for sake of simplicity, we want to go, okay, if change block location doesn't equal. So if we turned into something, we want to path it. That is not a statement. What? Oh wait, I need to put a return here. Attention to the detail. Then we need to implement support for stuff. So this is where we'll actually have to implement handling for the energy-based blocks. So this is where we would call get energy cost of tile and on block edited blast impact. So the energy cost is worthless, but this does set our HP. Unfortunately, I need to redo this. So go like that. We want to get rid of this because we don't want to edit the HP anymore inside these two methods. And there's a reason for that, because we'll get a concurrent modification error if we keep doing it that way. Instead, what we want to do is we want to make a new edit. So we make an edit right here that then triggers and destroys HP. So we want to go, okay, how much energy did we pass through? So how much energy hit us? And then something. A few other things we're going to do too. First things first is I need to copy this code here. So by default, we want to always return something to error because this system kind of relies on there to be something there. You can set this to null, but it won't pathfind if it's null. Then we want to kind of figure out what we are. So we want to go, okay, tile entity tile equals location dot get tile entity world. And we are, of course, a node, so this is going to be fun. I'm just going to skip straight to it, and I'm going to actually just call get node, because we know it's a node. Do we not have a time method for node? Yeah, we don't have a method for node, because this is its own little thing. Yeah, we'll do it the hard way. If tile is instance of iTile node host, then we want its node. Actually, we can do it as well this way. And tile.getTileNode is instance of tile node. No, we don't want tile node wall. Yeah, we'll do tile node wall because we're just going to straight to the point. If the client wants it changed, I can come back through here and recode it. But I don't care. So we want to return tile.getTileNode.get block edit on blast impact. And then we got to pass in a whole bunch of fun things. We know we don't care about this, so we just need to pass in the explosive handler, the blast, the energy, and then the distance. This is also, we need a ton of methods. Like, this is where I need to come back through and recode everything. So we, there's a handler, then we pass this. Then it needs to know the facing direction, which we're going to have to put in null because we don't have one. And we need energy and distance. So right now this will be a 0, and then distance will be location.distance, and then center. You seriously a double? Oh well. Cast per. Yeah, that's fine. That should sort of work. It's not going to be a perfect distance, but then again, we don't use distance, we just use energy. So energy is the part we have to figure out. So we need to figure out how much energy we're going to apply. And right now, this is literally just going to be a fixed number based on the distance from which we are. Because, well, we don't have anything else to work on. And there's the block pause location. By the way, this is not the same as the block pause in the newer versions. This is actually my own custom thing, because we are sitting here in this version. So we want to get energy, and we pass in location. And we want to just turn this into some kind of system. So we want to get the distance. Distance times some values of public final float energy per meter. This is not going to be a perfect system. So we're going to start off simple. We're just going to go, okay, I have 100 energy per meter. Oh, we need a backwards method for this. So we need to know like starting energy and then how much energy we lose by distance. So our starting energy is going to be size times energy per meter, and then we want to do times energy per meter, and then we want to minus it by start. And of course this is a double. And that way we get some kind of value back. And of course we're going to have to cast this to a float just to get things to work. But how this will work, so say we start with 1,000 energy, but then we're 10 meters away, we lost all of our energy. There's no energy left, it's 0. And this is where we also want to make sure that get energy is high enough. So get change block doesn't equal null. And this is where we would just handle this in the system here. Actually, no, we need to make sure we do this in the Pathfinder as well. Because if we do the simple Pathfinder, we don't block energy, so we want to go, okay, and get energy is greater than 0. Or actually, we're going to do greater than 1, because I don't like precision errors, and if you do like greater than 0, you could have like 0.000001, and you don't want that, so you always want to do something like greater than 1. Because it works out pretty well. So that makes sure we're not like thumbing and doing nothing. It also blocks it, so if you don't have enough energy, we just don't do anything. And then we kind of want, yeah, we want to do it this way actually too. Get energy cost location. And I'm going to drag this and put this down here. And so that lets us control how much energy we need. And we put, I'm making a public method even though I don't need to be a public method. But we do need this methodology here. And we just want to return I mean, there's nothing I can really return there. But we want to grab this guy and we want to go, okay, get energy cost of tile, so that way we're still reusing the same code we have. Get energy. This is not a perfect solution, by the way. This is like one of the downsides of all this. And we're recalculating distance way too often. I'm just going to keep recalculating it though. It's like, no point in overcomplicating my methods. So yeah, that'll work. So that'll get us our energy cost, which then up here would block the Pathfinder. So if we hit a tile we can't go through, it blocks. And then This also, if we use an energy system like this, also prevents exploits. So say if somebody wants to put like dirt in front of their walls or something, it doesn't work. It'll still pathfind through it and still destroy it. And unless the client wants that changed. But this will get us our stuff. And that'll get us our system. So now we just have to come back here, and we have to create our system of understanding how much HP we're going to have to remove. So what we want to do is we want to figure out how much HP we're going to lose. So float lost HP equals, well, we need the code that was just right there that I deleted. Let's close that. Now I'm going to pull open Git Kraken so we can find the code. And that way we can add it back in here. So we can calculate how much we need. And I can't think of, the reason I'm looking for this, by the way, is I can't think off the top of my head of what code I actually need. It's one of those sad truths is that I'm like a little groggy still today. Even though I went back to drinking coffee again, which has actually made a huge improvement on that, but we're going to see negative side effects of that as well. Okay, so we just changed the tile node wall, and here's the method code we wanted. We wanted this piece right here. So we want to know like how much HP we're going to lose. But instead of doing that, of minusing, we're going to go, okay, here's our lost HP. So we got how much HP we have, which is the minimum you can lose. Then we want the maximum of between 0 and energy divided by, which should never turn to 0, but we have code there for it. So we get the lost HP, and then we want to go, okay, if our HP is greater than 0, then we want to just do this. But then we come down here, we're going to go, okay, if the lost HP is greater than 0 as well, then we want to return a block edit that doesn't destroy our block, but just updates it, because we need to make sure we're updating inside the main thread. This is a concurrent modification error that would have popped up if we didn't catch this. So we want to go our HP block edit, and then implements I block edit, or it's I. There's a method for this. Last edit. Here we go. Implement methods. Ah, it's a lot of methods. We don't need like most of these. We do need some of these though. Okay, so we just need to do like int x, y, z up here, so that way we have location data. So x, y, z. We don't plan to do drops. We don't really care about blast direction. We don't care about any of this stuff. Don't care about energy. Don't care about get energy. We need a world though. So world. We need to make sure the has changed actually runs. So we're going to make sure this is always true. Edit result. So when we call place, and we need to get the bounds of this. So this will be cube dot full dot to ABB. That's not going to work actually. We'll have the to do fix. There's no new block, no new metadata, no get block. This stuff will probably crash though. Log previous block, return this. Get the tile entities, so just literally be world.get tile entity x.y.z. And actually, this is what we're going to do with the ones up here too. We're just going to go actually do world.get block metadata x.y.z. And we're just going to copy this up here. Get new metadata, get new block. Hopefully this doesn't break things. The reason I said this too is because I believe there's a check that checks if new block and block match each other. And of course, we just return this. And we need to place result. So when we actually call place is when we actually do our action. So this is where we want to tile entity tile. Actually, instead of rewriting this whole thing, we just copy this section right here. Boom. And we call it get tile entity. And then instead of calling this whole junk, we just go tile dot get tile node dot HP, or just reduce HP and then HP. So we'll make a method for it. You won't let me make a. You won't. It's being finicky today. Tile node wall. Still not let me do that? Okay, so I'm gonna have to like physically go over here and make the method, even though I really would like if it would let me do the nice cool method thing. Reduce HP float HP. This dot HP equals HP. Okay, so lost HP. HP is greater than 0. And HP minus lost HP is greater than 1. So that way, if the action is going to result in HP damage, then we want to make sure things happen. And then we want to run our thing here. So we run new HP block edit. And this is where we want to pass in like the world XYZ and then our lost HP. We'll have to make a constructor for this stuff. Lost HP. Create constructor. And then, yeah, we'll have to just manually this dot world equals world. This dot x equals xi. This dot y equals yi. Z equals zi. And then we need a float. So float HP. And then it'll be this dot HP equals lost HP. There we go. Very simple thing. So we'll actually label it too. And the reason we're doing this whole thing, by the way, is because we have to make sure we're making changes to the world inside the main thread, where all the blasts are calculated outside the main thread in order to save stuff. And this is null. Set. Okay, so it looks good. Has changed. Everything looks fine with this. And we just got to see if the blast is going to handle it correctly. And of course, we also have to register this. So we're going to have to make a handler for this. It's new EX handler damage. And actually, I need to rename this guy because he's not called EX, he's called blast. And this guy is actually supposed to be called EX damage. It's just a naming convention, not important. Explosive handler. Generic, I think, is what I can extend. Oh, it's an abstract one. That'll work. And I believe I just passed in blast damage. Change signature to match. Cancel. What am I missing? Implement methods. Create blast for trigger. And then this one we just have to go use blast damage. Set cause, trigger cause, set. Oh yeah, we gotta do a few things. So first thing you're supposed to run is set location, world.x.y.z, set yield is the second what you're supposed to run. So size, then you run set trigger, then you run set additional data. There's an order of operation for this technically. Technically, the additional data should run before the cause, because technically the cause can change the other ones, but this is all supposed to be flat data. You're not supposed to like really do anything with it. Create constructor. Whoa, judo damage is your name. Get rid of all this. And then we just got to register this. Is there no really thing for this? Oh, there isn't. That's good. That saves some time and effort. Let me just register this, and you register your explosion just wherever. It doesn't really matter. It just has to be registered at some point in time. Preferably in pre-init. This be explosive registry dot register explosive, and A register handler, I think what it actually is. Oh, domain, and I think I need to go pop back to this guy, take this, put that there, and the new EX damage. So that's how you register. Now this won't show up on items properly and anything because of just the way it's designed, so you won't see these on ICBM explosions at all. So it doesn't work that way. But we can then take this value, come down to our RPG, and instead of this being TNT there, that's our ID of our blast now. So this will trigger this blast effect with size 3, which means we'll have 300 damage. I'm going to set this to size 5 because that's what we scale everything towards is 500. So that means it'll do 5 points of damage per tile it hits. It's not a perfect solution, but it'll work. So do 500 damage at center point, and then one block away it'll do 400. This will work actually really well because it will have spread damage. That's exactly what we're trying to work on. Sorta. Maybe. You know, I'm going to up it to 600. So it'll be 6 damage. And we may have to toy with this. So a lot of little bits of detail that have to be worked out in order to get this to function just right. But theoretically, this will work. And all I have to do is then go in the TNT block, which we'll do as well, set its size a lot higher because it's supposed to do a lot more damage. And if this doesn't end up working, what we'll do is we'll switch to an HP driven system, because now that we have an actual Pathfinder, we can deliberately set HP with it now. We don't have to rely on this energy value system anymore. So we can go, okay, oh, we hit this block, now we can just go, okay, I want to set your HP by -5 every time I hit you. And that works pretty well. This gives us options. It means I can toy with the Pathfinder and customize it to the client's perspective, so that if he wants it to work this way versus that way, if he wants to start doing shape charge behavior with it, because I mean, RPGs are supposed to be shape charged. That's the reason they're very good against tanks, is they shoot a copper cone out the front and liquefy the armor on impact and go right through it. A lot of other things. And we crashed. Didn't take long. So we forgot to add more values to this. So there's a list of values that are acceptable, and we forgot to add it to it. So I'm going to do this and just indent that so it's easier to read, and just put the negatives in front of that, and that'll fix that, and we can launch again. So hopefully that'll fix our RPG. We can check to see if the RPG fixes as well. And that makes our code even more flexible. So that means if people have this problem in the future with the render system, then that's a fix for their stuff as well. So if they want to do some cool things, if they intentionally want to make their code do that bug, then they can just put a negative in front of it. And I like these little controls and stuff. They add a lot more dynamic to the render system. Things that I believe the Forge's render code is missing. Rather, Mojang's render code is missing, and the Forge doesn't compensate for it. So I give my system a little bit more of an advantage, and it makes it a little bit more advantageous to keep around if I have more flexibility. Plus, there's other cool things I'm going to do with my JSON system that you can't do with the Mojang one. For loops is a great example of that, where you can for loop and add repeat textures, repeat models, repeat model parts. Being able to easily select what model parts you want to render to is nice, although this is all contingent if I get the stuff to work in 1.8, which is going to be a problem. I hope I don't have to redo all my render code in 1.8. Just be like, ditch the whole system and start over from scratch, because then that makes the whole last 6 months of me delaying just so I can implement it kind of not worth it. Which would be sad, because it's a really cool system. I'm keeping it around though. Okay, so just wait for this to load. Sound handler always seems to get caught on loading. And it works. So no crashes so far. But given, we're probably going to crash at least once on the explosion code. Okay, first thing first, let's check to see if we fly straight. Change the reload time on this, so we just want to... Aha, it works. Such a simple fix. Such awesome possibility. I need to make the RPGs fly faster, of course. Huh. Okay, this seems to be at least not crashing. So let's go ahead and pop this down, and we're going to start our test again. So we should be able to kill this with 5 RPGs. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. I seem to be out of ammo. Ammo would be really important. Five didn't kill it. 6 didn't do squat. Okay, so now we have to figure out what's wrong with this. First check we need to run is if the blast code is doing its job, period. Like that. Actually, best place is right there. Okay, we are getting run, code call. So that means we then want to check see what the change block turns are doing. So we get our tile. Does its little thing, and you're not a wall, because you're a piece of air. So we want to see what time we get to that block. And we didn't get to that block. Let me close a few of these, and let me make sure that... Yeah, location data is correct. So set location, set yield, set cause, additional data. So that all looks good. So that's not a problem. So we just gotta run it again. Maybe I was just a little bit late in hitting the brake line. No, we're not getting this run at all. What gives? I mean, the location data should work. Okay, so we need to get the energy cost. So we want to click here, we want to click here. Exactly, it doesn't want to path the tile. So we get our energy, our starting energy is 600, which is expected. And I didn't get to see what the return on that was. But 600 minus, well, 100 should be not very high. And we're getting null on the tile, so we're at negative 191, 300. Okay. Okay, negative 191, 300. Why did it path that block twice? Negative 9, it keeps pathing the same spot. Oh no, it pathed the block above it. There it goes. Okay, it is trying to path. So I want to know when you hit that spot. Okay, we do hit the spot. And that's probably going to return a really high energy value. So if we can actually go into that. Go here. So I mean, it is identifying the correct tile. It's just we're not getting down here because, well, probably this code isn't working. So let's restructure this guy. So we're going to go, okay, super.shouldPath. So the super, the only thing it does is it does a range check for us, which is kind of nice. Then we want to know what is our energy cost. So we're going to go, okay, float energy equals get energy location. Float cost equals get energy cost location. Then we want to return if energy is greater than cost. And that change block turns into something. And then just returns false. So we recode that, and that lets us see what the energy cost is. Because what we could be is the cost could be too high, is what could be happening, which is likely. Yeah, that actually might legitimately be the problem. Is it's just hitting this, and then it's going, okay, the cost doesn't work. Yeah, actually, I think it's exactly what's wrong with this. Because this energy cost is going to be like 2,500, but then we're only doing 600. So if we hit this, energy cost, oh, the cost is 10. Okay, we hit an air block. Air block. Air block. There we go. There's our energy cost of 2,500. Yeah, so we can't do this. So instead, we want to do if change block turns into something, so we don't get null back. Because then we let the thing handle some crap. Because well, this doesn't work. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so I'm gonna break this guy, and we're gonna restart a test. And we still have a break line here? Yeah, I think we still do. Okay. So we can just test to see if the code's working properly. Okay, break line goes into here. Of course, we're gonna have to deal with the repeat method calls because, well, it's just a thing. Yep, repeat method calls. Okay, distance check. Here we go. So this will calculate our HP lost. HP lost went negative, even though it's not supposed to be able to. What is our HP? Our HP is -1, so this needs to be get HP, because now this is going to block is going to blow up when hit. So there's a bug right there. Yeah, it actually did not blow up in one hit, because well, actually that should have died, because we got -1 coming down here, and that should have went to this check right here. Make sure we actually keep calling get HP rather than doing this. That should work. Do the same thing here, because we're not triggering the get HP on the save call either. Reload. And then let's get rid of this check here, because we know it's at least running. Okay. I need to add a right-click handler here so we know how much damage we're actually taking. But what we want is we want this line to trigger. So if we're taking damage if that line triggers. And that line triggers, which means we lost 5 HP, which is exactly how much HP we should lose. So we're now at 2 RPGs. That's 3. There's 4. 5, still not dead. 6, still not dead. And it's not working. Okay, so next trick is if this guy's running. So this is what probably is not functioning correctly. So we're going ahead and run that. And we didn't get a trigger at all here. So let's go to console. I'm not seeing anything in here. It's really tricky trying to debug these guys because they don't like to work correctly. Because we know this is the code that has to be called. And we know this has changed its called. put blocks out here. See if that makes a difference. And then actually put 0 as well. There we go. Nope, I don't think it made a difference. Okay, so I think if I put a debug line here, we can catch it at least running, potentially. No, it's not doing that either. Let's try this. Maybe put a debug line here and maybe catch it running. No, that's not working either. What gives? Because it's an eye blasted, which means it should at least work. So somewhere in this code, it's not doing its thing. And this thing uses iWorld edit too, so we didn't even need the blast edit part. So up in blast simple, we get affected blocks, which is just a list of world edits. So what I need is to know when this guy finishes. There's a layer system, of course. Set yield, calculate, get layers, path entire, continue pathing entire, path next, change block, should path. Okay, I think if we go down the most basic layer of this, which is blast, I think there's a method that gets called in here. Okay, there's a get affected blocks, which we could just put a break line here and this might work. Let's try that real quick. Okay, so we can get that, go down, get affected blocks. It'll take a few seconds for it to run. Size is 1. Which is just a blast edit. Why did the list only contain 1 block? Hold on. Let's go back to the wall here. Did I screw up on my typing? No, it's right there. So there's HP edit. Okay. So we go on this. We go into here, which then runs the Pathfinder. And of course, we're running the non-recursive. We're running the iterative Pathfinder, which does its thing. Goes through the system. Runs a change block call. So our size of the list is 1, because it just ran its change block call. But I don't understand why we got an error block call off rather than our damage block. Because this is what we get. So this is what's actually running. This is what we actually want. And we're getting 2 different results. Okay. Just getting us our edit. Okay, that's calling change block. Should path. Just doing our stack.offer. Oh, our blast simple path has the explosive damage system built into it. So how does it do energy? Does it just pass back like a -1 or something? That might be our issue. Because there is already a system for it. Okay, that's our issue. So I'm going to hit kill on this. And I'm going to make a method down here for get energy. And just keep working on this. My dog just decides to wake up from her nap and whine at me. So we get energy, and what we're just going to do is just make a method here. So we put this here, and then we return -1. Yeah, but we're gonna pass distance in too, if I write it. Double distance. And right up here where it passes energy in, we want to call get energy. Actually, you know what? I think what I want to do is do float energy, get energy here. Then we want to pass in next node. Then we want to pass in distance. This will be energy cost. Energy cost is greater than 0. Then we can pass in energy right here. And of course we can pass in energy right here as well. That gives us our system. That gives us our method call here. We just have to make sure we override things. So we put this right here. Then we don't. Do we need the whole system here? Because if this is running the energy or the damageable system, then this change block isn't needed anymore because it just does its normal thing. So then that means we come back to our damage system and we can scrap this guy, most of this code, and we scrap this guy. Good, we're done. Like that, you see how simplified that code becomes once you figured out the correct way of doing it. This is an example of where I really should write more documentation on my own code and really should spend more time. So what's it called? High explosive damageable tiles and blocks. There we go. So we got that, so that works, and we set up everything, and this should fix it theoretically. So we'll go ahead and run that debug on there. And hopefully we're done this time. So I can go work on other mods. Even if we're not done, I think I'm just going to go ahead and work on other mods anyways. This is something that just I have to toy with, and that's the thing with blast code is as simple as it sounds, and as simple as it looks to make certain systems, occasionally you get problems that you don't foresee when you make things. And this is kind of software development all in general. But at least in my experience, blast code is one of those things that doesn't like to play fair or nicely because there's a lot of complexity to it. You don't just make something that goes out and blows up blocks. You do that, then you're making something super simplistic, kind of like how the TNT explosion works. You kind of want something that understands what it's hitting, reflects damage, does a few other things, and ends up with a much more elegant solution, which I don't really like, but ends up with a more elegant solution that actually does result in better things. And I just remembered something. I'll be right back. So I forgot before I started this whole ordeal of programming on this that I was cooking. And needless to say, I started smelling smoke. And now I have a pot of charcoal outside on my stove. Oh well, rip my lunch. So theoretically this is fixed. Guess what my dog was whining at me for. You should bark louder. Okay, so we got some kind of break line. So we got a break line saying it got its thing. So I can remove this. We know that code works. And that got us our edit. Our edit is equivalent to our HP damage block, so cool. It's doing its thing. And okay, there's our has changed, so we're getting our has change running. Come on. Yes, and it works. Okay, so once we see it in that list, we know it's doing its thing. And we got our place result. So that goes down, reduces our HP. course, it has to do this get tile thing, but our HP after I run this line should be... Actually, you know what? I forgot to put the minus equal. But, it works. So, we have results. So let's go ahead and place a new one of these down, do our test real quick, and we should be able to call this video done. And then what we'll do is the next couple videos here, we're going to be working on baggable entities because I kind of want to get that on all the creator server here for the Let's Plays. And then I promised Missy, which is one of the people on there, I'll make a gas mask to counteract the Coded's evil attempts to make the bedrock layer above the nether hostile. So one hit. That's now that's like a half a hit, but should work. Whoa, we it went down to 2 hits. 1 hit. 2 hits. We definitely know it's doing 5 damage. So I want to put a line here. Actually, you know what? Instead of putting a line here. System.out.print line HP. And we can just leave the console open. Thinking ahead, this way we can test a little faster, so I don't have to do debug guys. And I can watch how much damage we're doing. So we did 5. We did another 5. It's being inconsistent now. There's another 5, so that's 3 hits. There's 4 hits. You know what was happening? I know exactly. We forgot to hit the reload button, so it is working. So we got all 5 hits, 25 damage. It worked perfectly. But what had happened is because we didn't reload, it was still doing HP equals instead of HP minus equals. So we're done though. It works. I can slightly close this commission down a little bit today because I've got a decent amount fixed and it's configurable. It works a lot smoother. All I have to do is start testing splash damage, a little bit more balancing, and then make it so that way you can only place walls on top of floor tiles. And then I'm done. So we'll be back here shortly after I de-smokify my kitchen and make myself some actual food because, well, I just burnt everything I had, and I'm going to save the charcoal and see if I can make a fire with it later because that's how bad I just burnt that out. I'll see you guys later.